I've had so many people in the last 48 hours ask me, white people, Tiffany, what am I supposed to do? So if you think white people are supposed to be helping, or they should be showing up, or they should be doing something, what should I do? And then I thought to myself, you know what? Here's what's real. What's super real is that there's questions out there in regards to burning buildings and people who are rioting. And yes, I hear you. I hear that. But what I also see is death. Now, what's real for me is that we're talking about a human life. But the other side of it is, my question is, where the hell are you? You have Black people in your community. You have Black people who spend money with you. In somehow, way, shape, form, figure, we both watch the same video. We both look at the same pictures. In somehow, shape, form, figure, you get to choose to remove yourself from the conversation, and you're going to come back when everything dies down. I don't think so. I mean, think about it. You're supposed to be the core of personal development. You're supposed to be at the forefront of teaching people how to develop themselves spiritually, mentally, and physically. We get on stage and you talk about like love and equality and helping the world and saving people and let's do this and but then when actually like when it's time for you to really show up and lead, you're nowhere to be found. I got into a conversation yesterday because Russell Brunson, he put up on his page that he just didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to respond. And he's so sad, that he like didn't know how to respond. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean you don't know how to respond, Russell Brunson? I won't take that. And then I watched this morning as Dan Henry jumped into that conversation and said, here it is that Russell Brunson is trying to do the right thing because he likes to help less fortunate people, and he likes to help less fortunate people. And I'm thinking to myself, you like to help less fortunate people? Black people are not less fortunate. That's not what we're talking about here. Black people in the United States of America are victims, period. And what's raw for me, it's like I was in the shower and I'm supposed to be doing this Tequila with Tiffany later on today. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm choking just thinking about it, because in this moment, I'm watching where there's this response and it says, hey, you know what? I don't know what to do. So therefore it gives me a justification. Hey, Kim, how you doing it? Hey, Kimberly. So I don't know what to do, Tiffany. So therefore it gives me a justification to not do anything. And it's like, listen to me, other white leader in personal development. Don't you dare tell me that you don't know what to do. I will not buy that shit. Not today, not ever. Dan Henry, Russell Brunson, Marie Forleo, like person after person after person. I'm never going to buy that. You know why? Because I watched an ad come out in record time from Russell Brunson that talks about how to handle yourself as a business owner in the midst of COVID-19. COVID-19 just got here 60 days ago. You mean to tell me that COVID-19 could come here 60 days ago and within a couple of weeks, you have an entire game plan? You have an entire game plan? How can you have an entire game plan in response to COVID-19, Russell Brunson, with it's an entire production? I mean, think about what I'm saying. I want everyone, because for those of you who follow these supposed leaders of personal development, I'm not sure that those are the leaders I want to be following. I'm not sure if those are the leaders you want to be following either. Anybody who's a cop-out, you cannot be leading, you cannot be fighting, and then you're the first one to retreat. I don't think so. When Russell Brunson said in his post yesterday, I don't know how to respond, and then Dan Henry said to me this morning, well, Tiffany, what do you expect us to do? And I'm like, what are you talking about? The same attention and time marketer that you spend on the next launch, the next ad, it's an entire production. You bring in your team, you mastermind this thing for 3 days. We're both marketers, Dan Henry. We're both marketers, Russell Brunson. And the reality of the situation is that we both run companies. And what's real and raw about that for me is that, man, Like, we both run companies, and we respond to solutions, and we respond with solutions to problems. And it's easy to go, COVID-19 is here. Let me manufacture and create something here at this moment, at this time. I'm going to create a response. I'm going to pull together a production team. I'm going to get creative on this. I'm going to get my copywriters on it. I'm going to get ... And you have a response to that, but yet you don't have a response to this? No, I don't think so. It's like, here's the thing. I know that I'm supposed to do a town hall meeting later on today. And I said, how do I take time and answer this question? Because the number one question I get is, Tiffany, well, then what should I do? And it's really simple. The same amount of energy and effort that you put into things and components in your business, other problems that you solve, is the same amount of energy and effort that you put into this. And it's like, well, how long do you do it until the problem gets solved? Isn't that what we do in business? Isn't that what we do as thought leaders? Isn't that what we do as leaders in personal development? It's like, you can't, the challenge for me is that, like, it's like, I don't get to turn off the button. I'm the mother of Black children. I'm the mother of Black children. I'm the wife of a Black man. I am the sister of 4 Black brothers. I am the daughter of a Black man. I don't get to turn that off. I don't get to shut that down. This weekend, I did not get to turn off the news, as some of my white friends have told me. I did not get to just retreat and not talk about it. I did not get to simply ignore it. I didn't get to turn off my phone. I didn't get to do that because my husband said to me, you know what? I need to go to the store. And I went, shit, I hope you come home. You know how many times I've said that to myself, real talk? You know why? Because my husband has been pulled over 6 times. My husband has been pulled over 6 times. Dear supposed white leaders of personal development, here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to ask you to do more. I'm personally asking you to do more. For all the people who are listening, I have these 3 super important statements. All white people are not bad. Contrary to what you might believe, I've got some amazing white friends. I've got some amazing white friends, and they love me and I love them, and they have cared for me and I care for them. That's number 1. Number 2, like, hands down, I say to you this, everybody should be doing more. Hands down, everybody should be doing more. Everybody should be doing more. Everybody, me included. That doesn't exclude me. I've realized this week that there are in some aspects that so many people in my own community are scared. But they're not scared because they're like, oh, I'm afraid. I don't know how to react. They're afraid because they're looking at something that they've already seen before. They're thinking about their cousin. They're thinking about their brother. They're thinking about their friend. They're thinking about their son. They're thinking about people in their 100% vicinity. And the truth of the matter is, like Tiffany, someone said, well, Tiffany, then why are you calling out these white thought leaders? Because here's what's real. If you're a white thought leader in personal development and you are not at the forefront of developing the number 1 problem in the United States of America, then how can you truly be at the forefront of developing this person? How can you really be at the forefront of developing the person to your left or your right, or other people that look like you? Kim Griffin, I hear you, your grandson. It's like, this is so much bigger than let's be upset about burnt buildings, and let's be upset about, this is so much more than this is so much more than let's be upset about this one tiny situation. What you're seeing right now in the United States is people who are past their boiling point. They're not just getting there. They're past their boiling point. They're past their boiling point. They're way past their boiling point. They're thinking of the people who they're thinking of thee. And it's like, for me, as a Black woman, I do have some power because I have a tiny platform. And what I can do with my tiny platform is share my stories, call things out right here in the forefront, call out my counterparts, my peers who are part of personal development with me and say, do more, because they have, as a white person in the United States, they have a different voice and a different ability and a different power than I do. That's the fact. As a white man, they have a different reach than I have. I'm not in those white rooms. I'm not in those white conversations. I'm not there in those committee meetings when people are choosing what speakers go on stage. I'm not there. I'm not there, and they are, and I know it. I'm not invited to those private meetings. I'm not. That's the fact. Yes, I'm entertained by some Black people in personal development, but I'm not the one that's called. They are, and I know it. I can't tell you how many people have reached out, white, awesome people who have said, you know what? I've been in a conversation. I've been in that room. I have been in that party where I heard white people talking about this shit, and I wanted to call them out. And it's like, well, why didn't you do anything? And then they're like, oh, because I was, and I get that. I hear you. Like, I hear you. And it's like, the truth of the matter is that I'm not in that room. I'm not, which is why, because I'm in that room and that's the room that has, it's like, I have to call it out for two reasons. Number one, because I need to be clear. I need to be clear, and I need to call it what it is, because the only thing that's going to cut through what's happening in this country is truth. I've had too many people on Black and white side tell me this week, Tiffany, leave things as they are. Don't be bothered with it. I'm like, but that's the same shit that got us here in the first place. Keeping shit in the dark. Keeping things behind closed doors. Being hushed about what really happened. Being hushed about pain. Being hushed about truth. Being hushed. I mean, it's like I said to myself this morning, I was like, how many people know that my husband's been pulled over 6 times? And I want to ask my white friend, how many times has your husband been pulled over by the police officer for no reason? How many times? Like, how many times? I literally said to myself, I'm like, you know, we talk about business. We talk about a lot of things, but it's like, we don't talk about that stuff. You know why? Because we can't, because I have to keep that inside. And then I have to, and not only do I need to keep it inside, but I need to figure out how to then continue to, I knew I was going to break down. I need to continue to figure out how to get to the next level while I still have this on my head. While I still have this on my head. I can't tell you how many in the last 5 years, how many white rooms I've been chased out of. I can't tell you how many times our application has been declined from speaking on a stage, and they're like, oh, but your topic is not really going to help the people in that audience. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The power of story is not going to help people, but how to put up an Instagram post is? Are you crying? Are you lying? You have 7 other people talking on the same topic. You don't want me there. Don't you dare tell me because it's not my topic. Don't tell me because I'm not good enough. Don't tell me that. It's simply because. It's kind of like, you know, I went to traffic and conversion. Here's some real shit right here. I went to traffic and conversion 3 years ago. And when I was standing there, I'm like, this is the biggest, everyone told me never to go to that event because people like us just don't go. And it's the biggest business event of all of digital marketing, 6,000 people. I'm like, how could this not be the right event for me? There's 6,000 people who are there. Clearly this has to be the right event because there's 6,000 business owners and I help people grow their business. When I went to that event, biggest conference in the whole flipping country, and lo and behold, what do I find? There are 300 sponsors. We're a sponsor, and ask me how many other Black women were there. I looked around this whole place and I'm like, there's not one other Black company woman sponsoring. There's not one other Black woman sponsoring. Where there's 6,000 plus people here and there's not one other Black woman and you guys are number one. So at the end of the event, I was baffled by this thing. Between me walking around traffic and conversion and people saying to me, ma'am, do you know where the bathroom is? Can you tell me how to get water? Can you escort me to the bathroom? Can you hold this for me? And I'm like, the fuck I'm gonna hold that for you? But it dawned on me that they were not used to seeing me. Like, they were not used to seeing me. So they were like, yes, she must be the help, as has happened to me many times before. So at the end of the conference, they have a whole committee of women who come over. I was beyond myself because we have a big ass booth. Our company's called Do the Damn Thing Nation. You can't miss us. We're in the front of this thing. There is 6,000 plus people there. And we get there, and at the end of the event, a committee comes over from traffic and conversion, forget the name of the team, and they're the event people. And then they're like, hey, so how is this happening? How is it going? And I'm like, we had a great event. Thank you very much for having us here. And she's about to walk away. And I said, and it's a whole group of white people who came over to talk to me. And I said, now you have to understand, my employees are there. I have a white guy who's with me with blonde hair and all and tall. And I have another white person who's with me. And then I have a Spanish person. And I say to them, hey, I have a quick question for you. Where are the other black women? Where are the other black sponsors, period? If this is the number one event, and I've never been to your event, Ivora, it's a very nice event, but where are the other black people? And lo and behold, she turns red and then she's like, you know what? I don't think, and then she got quiet. And I said to her, because that night before, I couldn't believe it. And I did the research. And you know what I found out? Traffic and Conversion has never had a black woman sponsor their event. And then I said to her, and I'm sorry, I was in the shower and I'm clearly dripping from wet hair. So forgive me, because this is not the conversation today on race. That is happening at 7 later on tonight. I just had a moment after I read Dan Henry's response and Russell Brunson, and I literally had it, and I felt like emotionally I was going to be trapped if I didn't talk. So then at the end of this, I said to her, no, I did the research. I went back the last 10 years. I don't see any other black woman ever sponsoring your event. And you know what she said to me? She said, you know what? I think you're the first one. And I'm like, how can this be the number one biggest event and I'm the first black woman to sponsor it? Now, here's what's important for the white personal development person. Like, if you're trying to understand, if you're just trying to understand what happens, okay, because it's a root, and the root continues every single day in this country, let alone the fact that I have a black husband who I'm afraid if he's gonna come home, let alone the fact that I am the mother of black children, let alone the fact that I have Kayla, who's a 9-year-old, who comes home to tell me stories about how children tell her about how she can't play with them, she can't do this, because she's a black little girl. Forget the fact. The truth of the matter is that aside from that, I need you to do more. This is so much, the conversation is not, I just want you to do something. Putting up an Instagram post is shit. Putting up a simple Facebook post is shit. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't move the needle. And no, you're not helping. Yeah, I now know that you're aware. Yes, I know that you acknowledge it. Yes, I see that you say, hey, this is murder. But the truth of the matter is that, it's like we've been fighting for so long. Well, the riots that you see that happened this week happened 30 years ago. When Rodney King was beaten, the same riots happened 30 years ago, and we haven't changed in 30 years. If we had grown, if there was something different, if it was new, then we would not be looking at the exact same thing. We're not looking at something similar. This is not like, oh, it's something in the family. Guys, we're looking at the same thing. It's like, hands down, we're looking at the same thing. And why do I need you to step up? Because I want to be able to live differently in this lifetime. I'm not coming back after I die. I'm not coming back after I die. When you think about, so it's like, how do you help? Number one, you have to know what's going on. You can't keep not knowing what's going on. You can't keep ignoring me. You can't keep ignoring that conversation. Number two, how else do you help? You go have the conversation with your other white friends. Black people have been talking to white people until they're like choking, till they're out of air. Hands down. Yes, 7 o'clock is ours. It's 100% going to be, yes, at 7 o'clock, we're going to be doing a conversation. I just made a decision I'm ranting by myself because I was choking after listening and watching Dan Henry and Russell Brunson tell me they don't know what to do, but I see how quickly they can create a COVID-19 resource list of how to survive during the pandemic. And for this, they're baffled. It was baffling to me. Thing number three that you can do. So Black people are not going to be the ones to create. Black people have already been talking. And what's so powerful for me personally is like, I for sure, hands down, like no joke, the most exciting thing for me in the last couple of days has been watching the amount of white people who have made a decision to go and protest. Because here's what you don't know. What you don't know is that if you are a white person, you're like, how do I best support my Black friend? How do I best support my Black neighbor that's my buddy? How do I best support it's you call them and you acknowledge what they are feeling. Just like you would if someone died in their family. Just like you would if you heard that they found out that they had cancer. It's the exact same thing. Black people right now are in pain. They're in a lot of pain. They're in pain, but their pain is not little bit. Their pain is not small. Their pain is deep. Their pain is so deep. My husband today is thinking about his grandfather. My husband has talked over the weekend about how his grandfather was called boy by a white man until forever. My husband is remembering his pain of watching his parents be raised inside of a home where their parents had to keep them safe from white people. It's like, here's some real seriousness. So it's like when you think about children getting reprimanded, here's when you think about children getting reprimanded, when you think about people, what's happening in homes, I want you to imagine this. For my husband, when his mother was a child in the United States of America, she didn't get in trouble or a beating for stealing something, for lying. I want you to hear me clearly. I want you to hear me. For stealing something or for lying. Do you know what she got a beating for? For drinking out of a white fountain. I want you to hear that. For drinking when she would play and she would be out in public and she'd be sweating and tired like a child was. There was a white fountain and there was a black fountain. And it was against the law for her to drink out of the white fountain, but oftentimes the white fountain was the only one there. The white fountain was the only one that had cool water that she could drink from. The white fountain was the only one that she had. The white fountain was the only fountain that was there. And she was so thirsty and she would go and she would drink it. And sometimes she would get a beating. You know why? Because her parents knew what that meant and they loved her so much and because they wanted to keep her alive. The kind of truth that sits inside of the home, and his mother is alive. She'll be alive for many more years. For her, in her mind, that was yesterday. That's not something that happened hundreds of years ago. That is now, that is today, that is in this lifetime. Number 4 thing that you can do to be part of the solution today, it's talk more. Talk more. Talk more with who? You don't need to talk with me. We already, this weekend, our families have already spent hours talking about it. Trust and believe. No, it's going and talking with other people. The same amount of attention that you would put into a launch, a program, a product, the same amount of attention that you would put into something that you would do in your company, damn it if you don't put that same amount of time and energy into this. Why? Because it's the number one thing I know in my community as a leader. It's the number one thought amongst my people. It's the number one thing that half of them face every day. How can I as a leader step over the number one thing they're facing and then go deal with the other stuff that's comfortable? This is why I will not respect them, because they're jumping over the number one problem because it's uncomfortable. So just like, how are you supposed to truly develop me if you don't deal with my number one issue? And for those of you that are silent, I want you to be clear. The pain that creates for the people that you claim to love, that you claim to care for, that you claim to support, the silence, the consistent silence, the surface response. Surface response is like putting salt on a wound. It's like, how can you really be my ride or die? Or how can you really save me from a burning fire? Or how can I trust you at 100% when you're not even showing up, when I'm at my most pain, when I'm at the core of what makes me feel in pain? Unacceptable. And you can come up with all the excuses in the world that you want, where you're like, Tiffany, I don't do that. I just don't get into politics. This has nothing to do with politics. This is zero to do with politics. This is nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with my life. Period. It has nothing to do with politics. And the second you stop using that excuse, the second you start using the excuse of I don't know where to start, you do know where to start. We all have common sense. We all know right from wrong. We all know right from wrong. We all know right from wrong. You can't tell me you don't know where to start. Because if I were to approach you on any other topic, you would 100% know how to show up in a heartbeat. You would have an answer. If I gave you a problem, some other problem, no. And for those of you who are saying, well, Tiffany, I am not strong. It's like, well, sometimes I don't feel strong either. But here's what I know for sure. I know that this is not about becoming or being an activist. I'm not an activist. I'm a leader. And when you're called to lead, you don't really have a choice. You just need to show up and lead. When you are called to lead, you just need to show up and do the damn thing and not make excuses. I chose this seat. I chose to lead. The second I chose to be the CEO of Do the Damn Thing Nation is the second I chose to lead. And if you chose your seat, then damn it, lead. And if you're not going to lead, then move aside. It's really just that simple. Because I'm willing to bet the more I sit in this week and I sit in myself, because God, you talk about looking in a mirror and really looking at a brand new problem that I want to solve. The more I sit inside of this and I watch all of these people stay quiet, stay stupid quiet, you know what I'm thinking to myself? I'm like, I bet you this is the reason why people don't get real results in these doggone programs. Yeah, we have the industry standard that we're grateful for, the 14%. But no, I'm willing to bet it's because you can't truly transform when the leader is not really transformed themselves. Period. And there's no way that you can tell me that you're here for the human if you can possibly this week, forget all the other weeks before this, if this week you cannot sit inside of, there is no way. I'm willing to bet that this is the reason why people are not transformed, because the leader is not really leading because they are not transformed themselves. And that's why you have this cycle of personal development, and then it's like a cycle. It's a very vicious cycle. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. I'm going to tell you, this week for me, watching the videos, watching that man be murdered was like a knee jerk. So it's like when people have said to me this week, they're like, oh, but Tiffany, I just didn't know what to do. I just didn't know how to respond. I'm like, are you kidding me? It was a knee jerk for me. What are you talking about? I was mortified. I physically in my body felt ill. Like I felt ill as a human. That wasn't, you know what's even worse about it, which makes me even more so flipping upset, is that wasn't even a black and white problem. That was a human problem that I was watching. Like, I literally said to myself, how can you be human and watch that? And then you have the nerve to come and tell me, Tiffany, what do you want me to do? And how should I? Like, the fuck, did you just not just see the same shit I saw? Shit, if you just saw the same shit I saw and it doesn't affect you like it affects me, then I'm not even sure there's a conversation for us to have. That's literally the honest to God, because it was a knee jerk. And it was a knee jerk, period. That was a knee-jerk response of me being mortified. And then I was so mortified in my body, I had to then reach out. I had to then express, because if not, I actually felt like I was going to physically explode. I felt like I was going to physically explode. I'm going to tell you this. Every white person watching this, know this. I do not believe that all white people are bad, by no means. But I will tell you this, you have way more power than you realize. And every day, hour, and minute that you stay silent, it's like this. You have the ability to empower someone else, and it may not be just another white person. You know, I'll tell you, and I'm going to end with this. My third grade teacher, I got to tell you this story, and then I'm done, because I got to go watch this thing. So my third grade teacher, I took time before George, I don't even know how this comes in the same week, but it did. Before George was murdered on television, or I should say during this time, I took the time to find my third grade teacher, because I remembered an experience that molded and shaped me into who I am today. So and it's the core of what we teach at Do the Damn Thing Nation. I'm not going to leave those people behind. So I'm in third grade. I'm 9 years old. And I am sitting next to a boy. His name is Juan Carlos Lopez. And I'm from Miami, Florida. And we're at lunchtime. And I say to him, hey, can I have a chip? And then a chip. He's eating potato chips. And I didn't have any potato chips. And he says to me, and I say to him, hey, can I have a potato chip? And he says to me, no, you can't have a potato chip because you're black. No. My 9-year-old self didn't know how to respond to that. My 9-year-old self, actually, I was so, that's the truth. I was, because I already felt awkward as a 9-year-old in that school. It was not an all-black school. I already felt out of place. And I came back from lunch and I went and I told my teacher, because she said to me, what's wrong, Tiffany? And I wasn't crying, but she said, what's wrong to me? And I remember her looking down at me. She's a white woman. Her name is Miss Norma Busto. And I want to give her the credit, because I want every white person to understand this power and what it does, because I'm grown today, but I can't forget the fibers in my body of the experience. When I said to her, I told her that Juan Carlos told me that I couldn't have a chip because I was black. I watched in this moment as she became infuriated. Just watching her knee-jerk reaction to this, it changed my world immediately. I didn't have to say anything else. She's a white woman. She doesn't look anything like me. And she's so angry. She stops class. She heads to the principal's office. She demands to have his parents come down. She has my mother come down. And I watched this woman. So in my moment, I didn't even know if this was bad or good, or I just know that it made me feel sad and insecure. But this woman took it up and she made it a big deal. And because she made it a big deal, she made me feel more valuable. Does everybody understand that? Do you understand the importance of that? Half of the battles we have in our journey to personally develop ourselves is our ability to just feel more valuable and be willing to show up for ourselves and be willing to own our own power. That's true personal development. It's developing the person inside, not these mantras and let me do yoga every morning and all that other foolishness. That stuff comes second. You got to personally develop inside of you. When she made me feel more valuable, she showed me that I had power, and she showed me that I was valuable and that she was willing to go and fight. She was going to put herself on the line. She made it important. She said, no, this is an issue. She moved urgently. It changed my world. It wasn't even the outcome of what his stupid parents said or what he said. It was the fact that I was like, oh my God, I'm that important. I was like, well, shit, I'm that important. Game changer. This is so, to the white person who says, Tiffany, I don't care who. that person, me, who I don't know you moving urgently, you making it visible that I'm that important, that the other people around you are that important. One of the reasons why I'm able to impact and reach what we do today is because I have that white woman who fought for me in the most tiniest way. And it all had to do with her willingness to put herself on the line. So here's last but not least. How do you know if you're doing enough? How do you know if you're doing enough? You do enough when there is a sacrifice involved. So let me give you the list. When there's a sacrifice involved, when it's uncomfortable, and it has a risk. If it doesn't have any of those three things, if it doesn't actually, forget that. If it doesn't have all three of those three things, you're not doing enough, period. That's the end of it. End of subject, period, and more period. And that's it. I do know one thing's for sure. No, I will not be silent. I don't care who I'm going to offend. I'm not here to manage other people's insecurities. So I'm not worried about what Russell Brunson thinks or Dan Henry or anybody for that matter. I'm worried about the lives I'm worried about lives. Like, so period. I literally, so one more person asked me what I think. I don't care. I don't have time to manage other people's insecurities, period. That is at all, in any way, shape, form, or figure. Not today, not ever. You can trust and believe that. So with that, I'm going to say I will see you absolutely later when we talk about race. But for right now, I absolutely hope that you go send out a text, you pick up the phone, you drive to someone's house and sit in their lawn, but you start. I do 100% believe that one person at a time, the game changes. I love you.